Burnout. Let's talk about it. So originally I was going to make a video on a simple tip to avoid burnout, but that kind of really got really simple and I spoke too many words. So I'm going to condense what I said earlier in that video that I was editing and just say it here. And then let's just have a discussion about burnout in general. Burnout, according to the helpguide.org, is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. So in a lot of situations, in college especially, when we come face to face with new challenges, new environments, new everything basically, there's a lot of stress that gets added onto us, especially when we're taking classes and networking and doing all sorts of things like maybe jobs or something else on top of all of that. And so it's easy to really feel stressed, to feel burned out. And you might wonder to yourself, if you've followed my channel at any length of time in general, you might see that some of my videos have covered topics on improving yourself, making yourself happy, making yourself healthier, etc, etc. Like, do I ever experience burnout myself? And the answer to that is yes, most definitely yes. I've experienced it. I still experience this from time to time, but I've kind of learned how to kind of curb that down a lot, tone it down a ton until it's somewhat manageable and bearable. Burnout is something that is just, it's not something you can kind of predict, right? It's basically an overload of stress, an overload of strained emotions. So it's not exactly like, your brain can tell you, hey, I'm gonna, give you a burnout now, so better prepare for it. It's something that kind of hits you when you least expect it. And so I still consistently experience little spouts of burnout from here to there, but a lot of the strategies that I want to talk about today in this video really help in terms of just managing that burnout when it happens, what to do when it happens, and how to get out of it as soon as possible. So that's just part of the discussion I wanted to make on burnout. Really, it's something that I feel all of us kind of share, that we have in common. Like, a lot of us go to different colleges, we all do different things, we study different things, we take on different jobs, but I think a lot of us can kind of relate to some degree, to some level of experiencing burnout. And I really wanted to kind of talk about where that really all comes from in the first place, and then talk about how you can kind of manage that burnout when it happens so that you can get out of it and counter it as much as you can. So as the Ask Guide or helpguide.org said previously, you experience burnout when there's like an overload of stress or overload of just constrained emotion, and a lot of that can happen while attending college. And so it's not uncommon to see students here and there experience really severe bouts of burnout, and that inevitably leads some of them to drop out, some of them to just drop to the bottom of the class and kind of just give up on their hopes of working on whatever they were trying to achieve while in college. Now that's on the really extreme side of the spectrum. There's also just regular burnout sessions where you kind of just don't feel the motivation to do anything. Your work really doesn't really get done. You find it hard to concentrate. It kind of feels like there's cotton in your brain kind of constraining at your thought process and things like that. That's something that I've experienced myself, and I'll go into how I countered that later on. But there's also just weak bouts of burnout where you kind of just temporarily feel like you don't want to do anything. Maybe that could last for hours, maybe it could last for minutes. It really just depends on what you're doing at the moment. So for example, in my previous video where I talked with my friend Thomas Tan on getting internships as a freshman, you can check that video up here. He talked about application burnout. When applying to jobs in the tech industry, it's not uncommon for applicants to send out hundreds of applications to different tech companies to get just one acceptance letter. Because the positions there are so coveted, there's only so many and there's so many applicants. Especially when applying as a freshman or without much experience, it's easy to kind of get discouraged because you're not seeing any tangible results. The recruiters don't get back to you, or you kind of fail the interviews, and that's a really disappointing result as well. And you don't get almost any acceptance letters if you're an average person. If you're above average, then by all means, you probably already have an internship at Amazon or something. Anyways. What my friend recommended was applying in batches. So he would take an hour of his time, dedicate that only to applying, and then spend only 1 hour a day or one every other day or something like that applying to these companies, and never worry about applying to companies outside of that time frame. That kind of gives a safe haven away from all of the stress of applying and reapplying and reapplying. Repeating the same things over and over again, given enough repetitions, can kind of drive somebody crazy, which is kind of what a factor is that leads to burnout. And so I think doing things in batches is a really good way to kind of manage from going into burnout. But let's say you go into burnout, let's say you burn out, what then? A lot of the things that I did previously when I was burned out in high school and early days of college, I just kind of let it write its way through. I didn't really do anything special. I just kind of sat in my dorm room, laid in my bed, and just kind of let it run its course. I felt like crap while burned out, but after recovery, it was kind of like it was back to normal. But I kind of realized that in that time frame that I've been burned out, it could last from days to even weeks. In that time frame, I could be doing more productive things that could be lifting my spirits instead. You could go on a walk, you could do some exercise, you could talk with friends. There's a lot of different things that you can do that really can put you in a state of mind that's unrelated to whatever's burning you out. And if you do that, then your brain kind of kicks in. It likes being happy, and so it'll try to make you happy. If you do the things that you enjoy the most, that really leads to a way to kind of inch your way out of the burnout and then get back on track. So a lot of times when I get burned out these days, I'll just kind of switch to a different track, a different topic, and let's say either listen to music or sing some songs or watch some videos from my favorite creators. Those things really make me happy. They make me think in a different way. And then later on, when I go back to the other tasks that burned me out before, I kind of feel more refreshed. I don't feel as burned out. And that makes sense. If you think about it, burnout is caused by stress. And if you're not stressed anymore, then you're really not burned out anymore either. So a lot of the things that burn you out, if you switch your focus to something that kind of counteracts that stress that you put onto yourself, it'll make you feel a lot better. And yeah, personally, burnout is just, it's a monster. It's something that I think everybody will experience, or everybody experiences at some point, but it's not something really you want to avoid at all costs. Burnout is something that's kind of natural. It's just your body's way, your brain's way of kind of telling you, hey, you're spending too much energy on this, your stress levels are too high, you need to cool down, calm your head, and come back to it later when you're ready for it. And so instead of learning ways to just not have burnout, learning ways instead to bring that burnout level to a really, really manageable level each time you have it is a lot more useful in the long run. If you stress too much about having burnout, then you're just adding more stress on top of yourself. It's going to be easier to get burned out. And the more things you kind of think of at the same time, the more stressed you get as well. And that kind of leads into a really repetitive cycle that just ends up being very bad for your health in general. So bottom line is just do something that allows you to get rid of your stress, that kind of just lets you be yourself again and shut off all of these stress that you've been accumulating since starting whatever thing you started, and get right back on track after your burnout has ended. Now obviously, burnout can be different in different industries. I'm just talking about my own experiences in college, and because most of my viewers are college students as well, or grad students or something like that, I thought this would be helpful for all of you who are experiencing burnout or don't know what to do while burned out. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you like this video, go ahead and drop a like and comment down below. I respond to everybody's comments because they are all special to me. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more content. And yeah, I mean, be prepared for next week's videos and onwards, because as I said before, I'm changing the format. It's going to be a different ball game starting from next week onwards. So I can't wait to see you all there, and I'll see you all in the next video. Ciao.